up on Lawmakers. The state school superintendent comments on the evolution controversy in Cobb County Schools. We'll talk with the lieutenant governor about his legislative priorities. And we'll cover today's Capitol Hill budget briefings. All those stories and more are next.
Live from Atlanta, this is Lawmakers for Tuesday, January 18th. Here are your hosts, Gerald, Bryant, and Nwandi, Lawson.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to Lawmakers. The Georgia General Assembly is in recess this week, but today was the beginning of 2 days of budget briefings on Capitol Hill.
And we'll have full coverage of those hearings in our exclusive interview with Lieutenant Governor Mark Taylor. Our lead story tonight, Governor Sonny Perdue tells members of the House and Senate Appropriations Committee that the state economic picture is brighter, but the state still faces some budget challenges. The governor talked about rising health care costs that impact the state's Medicaid program. Medicaid reform is already underway, and the governor is hopeful that reform will bring some budgetary relief.
Our challenge is to slow that growth while providing access to health care, better health care outcomes for our citizens, and with more predictable funds. I'm convinced that we can do that through a care management organization that allows us to get a handle on helping people be more responsible in the front end, but lower their overall health costs by using lower cost alternatives, i.e. family physicians and family practitioners, primary care physicians, rather than showing up at the emergency room. The facts show that when a patient is admitted to the emergency room, then they have about a 50% chance of being admitted, sometimes whether they need that or not. In this era of our physicians and hospitals having to practice defensive medicine, if you show up, it's almost as if you cannot afford to let that person go back home prior to you thoroughly checking them out. Many times these are situations that could be resolved at their primary care physician's office. So we've got work to do and challenges ahead as we live with our means, even with the budget growing. The challenge, as we think about, there's not going to be any windfall regarding expenditures or no bells and whistles. This is a pretty basic budget.
And we'll have more on the budget briefings throughout tonight's broadcast.
Well, one day after the Cobb County School Board voted to appeal a court order to remove evolution disclaimers from textbooks, State School Superintendent Kathy Cox said she believes the courts may be the best way to resolve the controversy. Cox herself was challenged last year when she suggested that the state science curriculum teach evolution as a theory, not fact. She later retracted that recommendation. After presenting the Department of Education budget this morning, she had this to say about the Cobb County decision.
I think until we have resolution of this issue from the very highest court in the land, there wouldn't be resolution. So the fact that we're going to just take it to another level and get a different, or I don't know whether it'll be a different opinion or not, but clearly this is an issue that's affecting not only Cobb County and Georgia, but the whole nation. And I think that getting the highest courts to look in at this is going to give us some set of resolution one way or the other, and it'll be good for the debate.
Superintendent Cox also expressed optimism about the Department of Education budget, including future pay increases for educators who qualify for master teacher status.
We did have a good budget presentation. It's the first time in 3 years I've gotten up and been able to talk about additions rather than just cut.
Just like there's an incentive for anyone that takes a quote-unquote promotion and you're asked to perform different responsibilities and have more responsibility, really, that has to come with some pay increase and some rewards and some incentives. So, yes, that will be forthcoming.
In other news, Governor Sonny Perdue told the Cobb County educators that he wants to spearhead a new way of looking at the budget for public education.
I want to change the way we think about educational financing from a standpoint of spending on education to investing in education.
Governor Perdue says it's time to rename the state funding formula as well. He says quality basic education, or QBE, is a dated term.
You know, basic in 1983 was pretty good. That was a step up. You remember APEG, that was adequate. Going to quality, basic was good. But I think we ought to, in this day and time, in the 21st century in Georgia, we're a much different state than we were 20 years ago. I want to call upon the educators and the citizens of Georgia to expect excellence in education.
The Cobb Education Consortium is made up of that county's educational facilities, including its colleges and universities, technical schools, and the K-12 Cobb County and Marietta City schools. Among its stated goals are leadership development, as well as teaching quality and increasing the legislative agenda. The governor outlined his legislative objectives for Cobb County educators, including plans to create the Georgia Master Teacher Program and the Georgia Virtual High School. He assured educators that the new program will not replace their current online and distance learning offerings.
We're not trying to cannibalize any systems. I think some of you all may have some of those kind of systems. I don't think you need to fear anything like that.
And we haven't been getting the biggest bang for our buck, if you will, because we offer these services and we don't have nearly as many students participating. The cost per student is higher. So we're hopeful that this expansion, offering more courses and really encapsulating all school systems in the state of Georgia who have an opportunity to do this, we're going to get many more students involved.
The governor also plans to delay class size reductions in the upper grades and extend local spending controls. According to Governor Perdue, this spending flexibility could become permanent if a system to audit and publicize spending is developed.
I believe in school boards. As an old athlete, I like to see the school board, and I think most of us do. Parents, teachers, and other citizens need more information on how their educational dollars are being spent, and I think we ought to tell them. We really have nothing to hide. Let's talk about where the dollars are going and give them the information that they need.
Now, Governor Perdue and State School Superintendent Kathy Cox will host a statewide conversation on education excellence. Georgia Public Broadcasting will air that program live January 27th at 7 p.m.
During Superintendent Cox's testimony at today's budget briefing, she had a pointed exchange with Representative Bob Holmes, former chairman of the House Education Committee. Representative Holmes asked when and if the federal No Child Left Behind program would be fully funded. Superintendent Cox countered that Georgia was getting more federal dollars than ever before.
You're right, we're getting more money, but it's going to cost us more, as I said, because of that fact.
You've been asking me this question for 3 years, and you get the same answer. We're getting more money from the federal government than we ever have.
But isn't it costing us much more, like 3 times? Well, why is Utah and Virginia going to think about withdrawing?
Well, Virginia isn't. The president was just in Virginia with the governor and with the chief state school officer celebrating No Child Left Behind last week. So I think they've had a change of heart.
I just talked to the chairman of education about a month ago in Virginia, who is Republican, and who in fact indicated that and they've got a resolution in Utah as well. I'm not making this up. So they're not happy if they're talking about withdrawing, but they said the funds would go into other programs. In other words, they wouldn't get money from other educational programs, and that's what they're trying to clarify.
Education is also on the mind of Lieutenant Governor Mark Taylor, and Nwandi and I talked with the Lieutenant Governor today, and when we asked him about his legislative priorities, he said, education, education, education.
I am really focused on trying to move Georgia from the bottom of the national statistics in SAT, in test scores, in graduation rates, to the top. And with proper focus, I believe that state government can work with local school systems to dramatically improve our public schools. But it's going to take focus, and it's going to take hard work, and I hope that the legislature will refocus itself on the issue of education. I certainly hope that this will be a year that we'll pass strong ethics legislation, and as always, we need to be supportive of our law enforcement, sheriffs, district attorneys, law enforcement at all levels, the GBI, and certainly we need to be mindful of our guardsmen and our reservists who are spending extended periods of time on active duty, hitting their families very, very hard.
Now, in terms of education, of course, the governor has outlined what he would like to see in his legislative package. I'm wondering, in terms of his plans for class size reduction, the localization of expenditures, and the plans for the virtual high school and the master teacher program, how do you think that fits into your vision for improving education here in Georgia?
Well, that's my major concern. He really has no plan to reduce class sizes in Georgia, and as a matter of fact, this is the third year that he has led with the contention that smaller class sizes are not a priority, and that class sizes should be allowed to increase in Georgia. And this is, to me, a very, very wrong-headed approach to improving education in Georgia. We are already making a substantial investment to lower class sizes in Georgia, but unfortunately these dollars that are being appropriated to local school systems to lower class sizes are not being used for that purpose. And as you visit schools all across Georgia, and as you talk to parents, as you talk to local board members, as you talk to state school board members, they will tell you that class sizes is increasing in Georgia. As a result, the quality of education is decreasing. Discipline becomes more of a problem in overcrowded classrooms. And I am really anxious to see the legislature come together and say once and for all that lower class sizes will be a priority. I'm so concerned about the lack of progress and the increasing class sizes in grades K through 3 that I am proposing that the people be given a voice in this decision. I'm asking the legislature to approve a constitutional amendment that will allow the people of Georgia to amend their constitution to say that the tax dollars that we're already spending to lower class sizes in kindergarten to 15 students, and in first, second, and third grade to 17 students, that actually become a part of our Constitution, and those funds be required to be spent to lower class sizes.
There have been considerable cuts in education over the last couple of years. I believe the Republican argument has been that the economy is down, that revenue collections were down, and these were part of overall cuts that were necessary. Are you saying the money is there to go ahead and reduce class sizes and appropriate more money to education?
Absolutely, the money is there. My proposal for a constitutional amendment requires no additional funding because we have, since the 1990s, been providing enough money in the QBE formula to lower class sizes to 15 in kindergarten and 17 in grades 1, 2, and 3. But the dollars are being diverted away from that very important task. Our governor is proposing the largest budget in Georgia's history. For the third consecutive year, he will set a record for borrowing as a governor. He's going to borrow $1 billion this year. So $1 billion in new spending, $1 billion in new borrowing, but yet no commitment to return the $500 million that have been cut from K through 12 education, and no commitment to lower class sizes. Certainly we're glad that he's proposing no additional cuts this year, but a better course of action would have been to stay focused on education and return some of those cuts that caused a lot of local systems to increase taxes in the last 2 years.
If we look at education from the higher ed perspective, I know we've heard from some Democratic leadership that there may be some danger to the Hope Scholarship. I know in the last legislative session you worked very hard to ensure that that program would be intact. The Republican leaders are telling us that there is no danger. From your vantage point, how does the Hope Scholarship look? Well,
the Hope Scholarship is the greatest program that we have in Georgia. It really drives home Georgia values. Hard work rewarded with a college scholarship. It's important to have this goal out there for our kids in their high school career. And it's important to keep our most brightest, our most intelligent students at home attending college here at state colleges and universities. So Hope is a great, great program. But Hope needs friends. Hope needs folks that are committed to making sure that it's here for generations to come. And state government, starting with the governor, needs to be focused on making sure that the Hope Scholarship is here for years to come. You do that not by cutting the program, but by promoting the program. Doing those things year after year that encourages more lottery sales, that encourages colleges and universities to keep tuition low so that it is affordable for our Hope Scholars. Working together, the Hope Scholarship can have a bright, bright future. But we now have a lot of people in very influential positions in state government who did not support the creation of the program. They voted against creating the lottery for education. They voted against creating the Hope Scholarship in the pre-kindergarten program. So yes, when we see those people rushing to the table saying, well, I oppose the creation of the program, but now let me show you how to save it, we are very concerned about that. And unfortunately, based on the actions of the new leadership in Georgia, Hope Scholars will see half of their book allowance removed this year. They'll see all of their book allowance removed next year. And in 3 years, books and fees will no longer be covered by the Hope Scholarship. That is not the right way to save the program. That's not the way to encourage Georgians from all walks of life to be proud of the program and to promote the program and encourage those things necessary to make sure it's here for a long, long time.
Of course, throughout the nation and certainly in the Southeast, we are seeing the pinch of Medicaid and what's going on in terms of funding there. And I'm wondering, in your view of how the state can best appropriate its funds, how can we avoid things like the example of Tennessee, where they're just having to cut people from those roles? How can we save Georgians who are actually using this system?
Well, unfortunately, here in Georgia, we're cutting a lot of people from the rolls as well. Last year, eligibility was reduced. Last year, 45,000 kids of working families lost their peach care. We've increased peach care premiums by 375%. And here we are taking federal dollars that we should be utilizing to help balance our budget, and we're cutting programs that bring us $2 for every dollar that we invest. And the other thing that's very, very disappointing is how much of this cost is going to be shifted again to local taxpayers. It's going to be shifted to local charity hospitals. These folks that lose their health insurance because of state cuts, these kids who are losing their peach care, they're going to show up in our emergency rooms. They're going to be sicker than if they had seen their doctor at the initial sign of trouble. We're going to have more premature babies, costing hundreds of thousands of dollars when prenatal care could have prevented that. It's very, very important that we not be penny wise and pound foolish in our health care decisions.
Lieutenant Governor Taylor's entire interview can be viewed on our website beginning tomorrow. Just log on to www.gpb.org, click on television, then click on Lawmakers.
And now more on today's budget hearings. The Department of Community Health manages programs such as Medicaid, Peach Care, and the State Health Benefits Plan. David Zelski joins us live with the details on that department from today's budget hearings. David.
Well, thanks, Nwandi. Commissioner Tim Burgess went through the deficits that each of these three programs are facing. His main challenge, offsetting a 13% increase in health care costs that are expected in 2006.
We are back and getting back into an environment in healthcare that we haven't seen since the early 90s and late 80s. The best managed plans in the country, we're still seeing almost double-digit increases in their healthcare costs, and that was after all the things that they've been able to put in place and deal with in terms of controlling the growth in expenditures. So I guess one of the points I want to try to make today is this is not a unique phenomenon for Medicaid, and it's not a unique phenomenon for the state of Georgia. It's a national phenomenon that's affecting every employer across the state, whether they're public or private.
Now, changes in Medicaid, Peach Care, and the State Health Benefit Plan were proposed, but those alone most likely will not be enough to offset the increase in costs, so program cuts and premium hikes can be expected. Reporting live, I'm David Zelski for Lawmakers.
Now, David, before you go, remind us once again, what is the Medicaid increase expected to be in 2006?
Well, Commissioner Burgess estimated a $279 million increase. Governor Perdue has proposed $149 million in new state dollars to offset that, but that's still $130 million short.
Well, that's quite a shortfall. Thanks so much, David.
The State Department of Revenue briefed the Joint Appropriations Committee today on the state's economy and what lies ahead for business in Georgia. Lawmakers' Chris Knight joins us live from the Capitol with that story. Chris.
Well, Gerald, over the past 2 years, the Department of Revenue has collected more than $100 million in past due taxes from Georgia businesses and individuals. Commissioner Bart Graham says the $1.6 billion in past due accounts is still a little higher than the department feels comfortable with. So to help further the collection process, Governor Perdue is supporting the institution of 15 out-of-state tax auditors that will keep an eye on some of the larger companies doing business in the state.
But this initiative is solely driven at middle market and large corporations doing business in Georgia who may or may not be fulfilling their complete obligations. Because most likely, in all cases, they're going to be filing returns with us. We're trying to validate that they're filing the right return with us.
And larger companies aren't the only businesses who might have trouble filing tax returns with the state. That's why the Department of Revenue is implementing changes that will make the sometimes confusing process of filing taxes a little easier for small business owners and entrepreneurs.
What we're also doing is changing all of our registration forms as well so that it gives a highlighted summary about what people should be attentive to as they start their new businesses.
And Governor Perdue also wants to help out those small startup companies with the Entrepreneur and Small Business Growth Initiative. The initiative would provide a tax exemption for Georgia's small businesses. Reporting live, I'm Chris Knight for Lawmakers.
Chris, before you go, what other initiative is the governor proposing that will help promote business development in Georgia?
Gerald, the governor's Strategic Industries and Innovation Initiative would give a $500 tax credit to Georgia companies who are growing jobs in the state.
Okay, Chris, thank you very much. Well, one of Governor Perdue's key initiatives in his State of the State address this year was the hiring of 500 new DFACS caseworkers. The Department of Human Resources oversees the Department of Family and Children's Services. DHR Commissioner B.J. Walker discussed Governor Perdue's new plan at today's budget hearings.
About 25% of our frontline staff at DFACS leave in their first year of working for us. 50% of our staff have less than 3 years of experience. And we wanted to make sure that we used this budget to begin to think about ways that we could stabilize, professionalize that staff so that we would have an experienced, mature staff able to deal with the issues that present themselves at DFACS. In numbers 35, 37, 38, 39, and 40, you will see a number of different initiatives that we intend to use. Training, we have a significant infusion of 500 new caseworkers, which we believe will help bring down caseloads and reduce turnover. And then we wanted to use some salary incentives in some of our more complex counties where turnover is particularly high to incentivize caseworkers to actually stay in those counties and really begin and really present a stable workforce for the complex work that goes on there.
There are currently more than 46,000 children in the state's care. They are monitored by 2,000 DFACS caseworkers. The addition of 500 would be a 25% increase.
Well, when the Department of Transportation Commissioner Gerald speaks before the Joint Appropriations Committee tomorrow, he'll give a positive update on the DOT's Fast Forward program. That program has been in effect for 6 months now and is intended to ease traffic congestion around the state. Lawmakers Jesse Freeman spoke with Commissioner Lennon-Cole today and took a look at the progress of Fast Forward. Jesse.
In Nwandi, the governor started the Fast Forward program late last April. It's called Fast Forward because its $15.5 billion budget is financed primarily through bonds. That allows the DOT to do 18 years of projects in only 6 years. Commissioner Lennon-Cole says that puts relief for some of the state's most congested roadways on the fast track. Fast Forward fights congestion by widening roads, adding HOV lanes, and coordinating traffic lights.
The goal, certainly in the metropolitan areas, is to address congestion. Congestion in this state is reaching a level that is just unbearable.
3 different types of bonds are used to finance Fast Forward. They range in payable terms from 3 to 20 years. Commissioner Lennon-Cole says the administration of the bonds is an important duty of the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget.
We're making tremendous progress already. The governor is behind us 100% in making sure that those funds are there when we're ready.
Now, in addition to projects to relieve congestion around the metro Atlanta area, the commissioner says many rural projects are underway, including widening of Interstate 75 around the Georgia-Florida border. Reporting live, I'm Jesse Freeman for Lawmakers.
Now, Jesse, you mentioned projects around Atlanta as well as in South Georgia. About how much of that program money is committed to projects in the metro Atlanta area?
When Nwandi, spending for projects in the program is carefully divided about 50-50 between Atlanta and the rest of the state.
All right, thanks a lot, Jesse.
Meanwhile, there were mixed reactions from Governor Perdue's State of the State address last week, not only regarding the governor's initiatives for the year, but also on a power shift in the House of Representatives. David Zelski has the story.
You've arrived in a season of new hope, and you bring with you a fresh wind of change. And I look forward to working side by side with each of you to build a new Georgia.
It's a new Georgia indeed.
The economy is coming back, looks like some revenue's coming back, and if we can maintain fiscal discipline and can focus on what's important to people, the new Georgia will work.
If you're seated on one side of the aisle, it's the opportunity of a lifetime.
We're now adjourned.
But if you're seated on the other side, it's a place you've never seen before.
When you have a policy in the House rules to close meetings, to not disclose what happens behind those closed meetings with public officials, to have a system where you can stack the deck on votes in committee.
Well, certainly there's a lot of change, and there's a sense that we're all getting our sea legs under us with the change in leadership in many areas. The Senate didn't change so dramatically this year, so we had a little more time to get ready for it. But I think the House has done a great job in that transition with very few bumps in the road.
I'm hoping that we will bring civility back to this process very soon and not continue down this road of draconian rules and petty politics.
Governor Perdue has laid out his initiatives for the year, improvements to education.
It's called Georgia College 411.
Making Georgia a healthier place to live, promoting business growth, and keeping Georgians safe.
We're going to begin hiring and training 500 new Child Protective Service workers to reduce the caseload in DFACS. We all know that a reduced caseload will enable our workers to better serve Georgia families and better protect Georgia's children.
I'm delighted that the governor's putting a priority on 500 new Child Protective Service caseworkers. That's the most significant thing that I heard tonight. Of course, in the last several budget cycles, we've appropriated money for 300 new caseworkers, and they haven't hit the ground yet. So I want to see the money appropriated for new Child Protective Service caseworkers, but I also want to hold the governor accountable that they'll really be out there.
Recognize the Senate Majority Leader for a motion.
House Speaker Glenn Richardson, Senate President Pro Tem Eric Johnson, and Governor Perdue all say they want less government and fewer laws. They say there is harmony in their agendas and the session should move right along.
Well, I think the days of gridlock are over. I think that Georgians in the General Assembly, Republican control in both bodies, are working together, and I think Georgians should be proud of that, and I think we want to pass meaningful legislation, and we're going to do it quick and get out of here.
In contrast to the last few years, why don't we try to set a record for the shortest session in history?
Reporting for Lawmakers, I'm David Zelsky.
Well, coming up tomorrow on Lawmakers, David Zelsky looks at the governor's plan to crack down on methamphetamine labs and more from the budget briefings as the commissioners of Transportation, Corrections, and Public Safety address the Joint Appropriations Committee. If you missed any part of this broadcast, tune in when Lawmakers is rebroadcast tomorrow morning at 5:30 a.m. on GPB. And now stay tuned for Crown of the Continent, Alaska's Wrangell St. Elias National Park. That's coming up next here on GPB.
And that is our broadcast for this, the first day of the budget briefings at the Capitol. It's also the first day on Earth for Madeline Borders. She's the new granddaughter of lawmaker staffer David Patterson. Madeline was born this afternoon, weighed in at 6 pounds 3 ounces. Her mom and dad, Beth and Stephen Borders, and baby Madeline are all doing well. Our best wishes to all of them. I'm Gerald Bryant.
And I'm Nwandi Lawson. For everyone here at Lawmakers, good night.
Good night.
This has been a production of Georgia Public Broadcasting.